No, this is a huge Democratic Party problem. If you look at Democratic cities, they are terribly run. They have incredibly high taxes. It is impossible to build, so the cost of housing. Let me finish. I'll give you a chance. That cost of housing is crazy in places like New York and Chicago.
Bill Maher just did something nobody expected. He got CNN's Fareed Zakaria to admit that. Believe it or not, some of Donald Trump's policies actually helped America. Yes, really, it all happened on real time with Bill Maher. Zakaria looked a little uncomfortable, laughed it off, and finally gave in to the facts. For a moment it felt like real journalism slipped through. Maher didn't hold back, he called out the media spin, dropped some harsh truths, and Zakaria had no choice but to go along. It felt more like a roast than a regular interview. And, yes, it was kind of great to watch. Let's break down this rare moment of honesty from the media. Next.
Wants to sell a visa, you get permanent residency. By the way, I looked this up, we are hardly the first country to do this. Doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. But, you know, I remember...
Yeah, we actually have a version of it. It's called, I think it's called the EB-5 or something like that. So it's fine to do it. I actually think maybe it's because I'm, very patriotic. I think 5 million, we should be charging 20 million or, American citizenship is worth more than that.
Hey, don't know about you, but this one made me do a serious double take. Fareed Zakaria said Fareed Zakaria from CNN, the same network known for nonstop criticism of Trump, actually admitted that one of Trump's immigration policies might be a good idea. Specifically, he praised Trump's Gold Card residency program, which allows wealthy individuals to live in the U.S. for a steep price. That alone was surprising, but Zakaria didn't stop there. He went even further, suggesting the price tag should jump from $5 million to $20 million. In other words, he said if rich people want to live in America, they better pay big. And this came from someone who often talks about fairness and inclusion. The irony? Hard to miss. This wasn't just unexpected, it was a major twist coming from one of Trump's usual critics.
Now you're speaking Chicago language. I'm for it, but it's part of a bigger package on immigration reform. It's been 42 years since the last one. So I'm not against it, but it's part of a whole package.
See, like that had come around. Really, Ram, that long. Makes you wonder what your party was doing all that time. Too focused on looking good to push something that actually worked. And here's the twist, Trump didn't stop there. He even called out the extreme woke ideas coming from his own side. Now that's a moment worth paying attention to.
There is a general rule. I had this when I was mayor. Safe streets, strong schools, stable finances. Focus on those three things and your city's going to be fine. We've gone through 5 years where people became way too permissive of the culture. They were all, which is why everything's locked up at Walgreens and CVS, and that is a disaster.
Yeah.
And our school, and I'll say this about our schools. I don't want to hear another word about the locker room. I don't want to hear another word about the bathroom. You better start focusing on the classroom.
ICE, it's starting to feel like the left is turning on itself, and, honestly, it's a bit fascinating to watch for some context. On Real Time, Bill Maher brought up a shocking stat. The current mayor of Chicago has just a 6.6% approval rating. That's not just low, that's maybe it's time to step down low. Rahm Emanuel, who used to be mayor himself and knows political spin better than most, didn't even try to defend it. Instead, he flat out blamed his own party. With a smirk, he said the left has gotten so caught up in culture war distractions that they've lost focus. And it's making the entire movement look confused and out of touch. Then came the real moment. Rahm went on a minute telling the ultra crowd to stop turning every locker room and bathroom issue into a political battlefield. He urged them to shift their energy back to what matters: education, reading, math, and fixing real problems in the classroom. It was one of those rare moments of political honesty that felt like a breath of fresh air. The irony, it took a Democrat on HBO calling out his own side to finally say what millions of everyday Americans have been thinking for years. And Rahm, he wasn't done yet. He was just getting started.
We had the worst reading scores for 8th graders in 30 years. And nobody, not a governor, not a mayor, not a president, not a secretary of education is talking about it. We're all wrapped up. Look, in 7th grade, if I known that I could have said the word they and got in the girls' bathroom, I would have done it. Okay, we literally are a superpower. We're facing off against China with 1.4 billion people, and 2/3 of our children can't read 8th grade level.
Sonia, as this whole exchange was end, it definitely had its moments. It also highlighted something more troubling. We've gotten so afraid of offending anyone that we've let a small, vocal group dictate what's acceptable and what's not. These activists, often claiming to speak for progress, have leaned on selective research and shaky arguments to push ideas that cross serious boundaries, like demanding open access to women's bathrooms and locker rooms. All in the name of inclusivity. Let's be honest, we've sidelined basic common sense and long-held values. Things that used to be straightforward like protecting women's privacy and safety are now seen as controversial. Why? Just to avoid upsetting the loudest voices in the room? But here's the upside. People are starting to wake up. Even prominent figures on the left like Rahm Emanuel and Fareed Zakaria are beginning to question the narrative. Maybe it's Trump shaking things up. Maybe it's Bill Maher speaking up as a rare voice of reason. Or maybe it's just the truth finally cutting through the noise. Whatever the reason, this shift is long overdue. Because finally, some public voices are saying what everyday people have been quietly thinking for years.
If you look at Democratic states, you go to look at New York versus Florida, okay? Roughly the same population. The budget of New York State is twice that of Florida. What do they have? Streets paved with gold? I live in New York. I pay the highest taxes in New York. You get nothing for it. And I think that is the image people have of the Democratic Party. Lots of taxes, lots of regulation, but nothing gets done.
VOIC Bill Maher didn't just get them to admit grudgingly that Trump may have done something right. He went even further. He got them to turn on each other. It felt like a political version of Survivor. Rahm Emanuel and Fareed Zakaria, both longtime voices on the left, started pointing fingers not just at each other, but at their own party. You could almost hear it in their tone. Maybe we helped create this mess. They brought up all the issues everyday people have been dealing with: sky-high living costs, never-ending red tape for small businesses, rising inflation, and taxes that make you wonder how you're supposed to get ahead. And suddenly, the usual blame game turned inward. What we saw wasn't just a spirited debate, it was a rare moment of public reckoning. The same people who've spent years telling the rest of the country what's best are now openly wondering if they got it all wrong. It wasn't just political drama, it was long overdue accountability. And honestly, it was refreshing. When the people who shaped the problems finally start questioning the plan, it means the old narrative is falling apart. Grab your popcorn. This is just getting started.
The point isn't the rules. The point is the results. And the party has gotten way too focused on what the rules are. And I do agree with you on this. We have made it impossible to function as a city or as a state.
Be honest. The issue isn't about following every rule to the letter. It's about results. And somewhere along the way, the Democratic Party lost sight of that. They've gotten so caught up in procedures, policies, and appearances that cities and states can barely function anymore. Even Fareed Zakaria admitted, "I tend that's saying something." But here's the real question. Did Zakaria just now have a wake-up call? Or has he known all along, quietly going along with things while Biden was in charge? Because for years, CNN wasn't just critical of Trump, it was basically a full-time campaign against him. Skewed panels, constant negativity, and one Republican voice thrown in just to make it look balanced. And their so-called news reports? More like carefully written takedowns, painting Trump as the bad guy in every single story. So now, with Zakaria suddenly pointing out problems that have been obvious for years, you have to wonder, where was this honesty when Biden's policies were causing damage? Was he silent because of professional pressure, party loyalty? Or did he just wait until it was safe to speak up? Either he didn't see the problems, or he chose not to say anything. And neither option makes him look good. Maybe this shift is about clarity, but maybe it's just the truth finally catching up with him.
Take an example of this example. Here, obviously in LA, it took a fire and a natural disaster to make you realize, you know what, that rule's not that important. In Pennsylvania, a bridge collapse, all of a sudden we go, well, that environmental rule is just not important. We got to build a bridge. It's much more important. And I think the Democratic Party should take a look at it and say, we're going to be honest, like we did in 1994 with reinventing government. Everything is on the table. Nothing is safe.
That right there is what so many people have been saying for years. If the Democratic Party wants to make a real that actually speaks to everyday Americans, they need to get serious and stop playing political games. It's time to drop the distractions. That means letting go of the buzzwords, the culture wars, and the policies that just don't make sense to most people. You can't fix real problems by focusing on pronouns or putting on a show. And you definitely can't win back working voters by ignoring real-life concerns like inflation, public safety, education, and job stability. People are exhausted. They don't want more speeches, they want results. They don't want to be talked down to, they want solutions that actually help their families and communities. If Democrats want to be relevant again, they need to leave the echo chambers behind and start focusing on what matters. Because common sense isn't left or right. It's just been missing for far too long.
From making any purchases, either in stores or online, to shun fast food, getting gas for a full day. I know. That look on your face says it all. You're right. It's so fucking stupid.
VOICA, in the end, all Bill Maher really did was hold up a mirror, and a lot of folks on the left didn't like what they saw, as voices like Fareed Zakaria and Rahm Emanuel start breaking from the usual script. It's clear the cracks in the narrative aren't just there, they're growing. If Democrats want to make a real comeback, it won't happen through sound bites or showmanship. It's going to take honesty, real solutions, and a return to basic common sense. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more straight talk, bold opinions, and moments that keep the mainstream on its toes. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.